choujinX chapter 69. Guys, I've been waiting for the TLs of this chapter to come out since Friday. And since Friday, I have been going through so much pain. It is actually unimaginable. Not physical pain, mental pain. So without further ado, let's get right into this chapter. And I hope this chapter can heal me from the pain of seeing my Barca lose at Stamford Bridge. Let's get into it. Please remember to like and subscribe if you like this type of content. Let's go. The chapter kicks off with a news reporter reporting the events of the last chapter and all the crazy events that happened in it. The whole narration of the chapter starts off by saying Yamato Prefecture suffered numerous casualties in the wake of a series of bizarre plane crashes in the region. The cause of the plane crashes in Yamato remain unknown. As of tonight, the combined death toll and missing persons count has reached 2,000. Now, here's my thing, right? With this whole plane stuff, it's obvious that Sato is connected to all of this, right? But I actually don't think that Sato is the one orchestrating these planes to do. And the fact that Ishida included this missing persons thing could be a very big hint. As in, let's say a lot of the people who are gone aren't dead, but they've been abducted. Because there might be people in these planes that may have came out and infiltrated Yamato society. Who knows? But yeah, we just gotta keep going. We then cut to the news where people are talking about it, the same thing. And I always loved how Ishida incorporated the news into choujinX and just slight politics, showing how the choujins in this world, it feels like a real world and it affects politics. And there's actually discrimination towards them as well. I like that because it makes it feel realistic. You know what I'm saying? Not everyone's gonna be on board with this choujin thing. But the conclusion that these news people come to is that this wasn't an accident. And of course, like, this is true. This was not an accident. This happened on purpose. Even the news people could figure that out. We then cut back to Yamato Mori HQ where all the masters are just sitting there, but BB, of course, because BB's dead. But Sandek is saying, Master Motto, how is that possible? Meanwhile, the assassination of Tsukiko Mado, the director of Yamato Mori, was reported to the board. The mysterious simultaneous plane crashes and the subsequent loss of their leader shocked and baffled all present. And we know who this was already. It's pretty plain as day. But now it creates this dynamic between Yamato Mori where there's now, since Ishida got rid of the Zora whole conflict, now it feels like there's a conflict between Yamato Mori itself and maybe a larger scale conflict coming from abroad somewhere. Arthur states how it can't be a coincidence this happened on the same day we went into the final campaign against Zora. They chose to attack while HQ was short-staffed, and that message in blood, we don't need a prophecy. Sato then interrupts and says, it's clear what they wanted. 1, to rob us of our leader, and 2, to strip the power of prophecy from us. We used to be able to take preventative measures, but not anymore. From this point on, we have no idea what disasters await us. And I think people are really overlooking the stake of these deaths. Now, of course, choujinX's main cast, a lot of the characters haven't really had that many stakes. Not that many characters have died yet, right? But I feel like when people overlook this aspect of it, of the people who have died, greatly impact the narrative. Because up until now, we've been able to see, we've had a small thing as the reader to know what'll happen next. But since this point, we're not gonna know what's gonna happen next at all. It's like we're walking blind now, and that just raises the stakes tenfold because we have no clue what's gonna happen. We genuinely have zero clue what can possibly happen next. Whereas before, we would have had some sort of clue, and the whole arc will be how to prevent. Sato then continues the statement by saying, an enemy invisible to us must have set up the groundwork to do this. And I find it very, very nice that Ishida puts the text box basically covering all of Sato's face while he says this, because we as the reader already know Sato is the one that orchestrated this entire thing. Sandek then continues talking. He says, the city has been devastated. Regardless of who this unseen foe may be, the rescue effort is our first priority. Where did Zora's Mark of the Beast go? Arthur asks. And then Sato, interestingly, looks towards him and said, and there's that. It seems like Sato is also very interested in where the Mark of the Beast is and who currently holds it, because I think he desires that power. He needs it for something. Now, obviously, I think Isha will keep his motives relatively unknown for a very, very long time, kind of like Furuta. This is like when Furuta infiltrated the CCG. But at the same time, we see that Sandek is actually hiding the thing of the mark, even from Yamato Mori headquarters, which means Sandek already suspects somebody to be behind all this shit being in Yamato Mori. He already suspects a mole in Yamato Mori, and it's the logical conclusion to come to, because we've already gone over the fact that it can't be a coincidence that the day of the whole operation, where only a few people knew, that only the higher up members knew about this operation, that's exactly where this entire tragedy struck with Mato and everything. This is no coincidence. This was definitely planned by somebody inside HQ. Sandek then responds and says, I will tell you about the details on the mark at a later date, but I will say that Yamato Mori has secured it. And then we cut to Sandek walking back. He thinks in his head, he says, an invisible foe who rejects prophecies, to have Zora and Master Mato die on the same day. Arthur, I'd like you to look into something. You're the only one I can trust with this. Guys, I think that pretty much spells the end for Arthur, because I know Ishida, and I know nothing ever goes as planned in Ishida mangas. Now, I do think that Arthur might be able to leave behind some clues and maybe expose who it actually is, but I very much doubt that Arthur is going to live after this revelation, and even if he finds out who this is, or maybe Arthur himself might be so cooked, like, who knows what'll happen to him, but I just think this just spells the end for him. Just then, we cut to the hospital room, and my boy Azuma is woken up finally after how many chapters. And man, he really looks like Kaneki right here, I'm not gonna lie. Azuma seems to be very distraught on his situation, asking what happened to everyone, what the hell is going on. But then as soon as he goes to go grab his glasses with his right hand, he then realizes that his right hand has been completely gone, amputated. So we're gonna see a one-armed Azuma in the future. Either way, it looks like Azuma then remembers at that point everything that took place with Queen, and my boy doesn't seem to be in a good spot, guys. I'm gonna be so real. He looks like somebody almost virtually completely defeated, and I feel him, honestly. Like, what can he possibly do about this? Like, just learning that your entire life was fake is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, how do you even react to that information? But just then, Denku ends up coming into the hospital room. He says, you've risen from your slumber. Azuma looks pretty happy that he sees Denku, and then he moves a little bit too much. He says, ow. Oh, please don't move. What happened with the battle? Then Denku is paused. Denku then goes on telling Azuma exactly that, what happened throughout the battle, but he conveniently leaves out the plane crash part. He doesn't tell Azuma about that, but he leaves that out, and then on top of that, he then tells him about BB's death and what her last wish was for them was to take over her banners. And so the conversation basically ends there, but Azuma then goes on and asks Denku, before we cut away from the scene, he asks him, can I ask you for a favor? And I'm just wondering, what is this favor? Like, what could it be? Maybe he's asking him to keep a secret. I have no clue. Maybe check up on Tokyo. I have zero clue what Azuma's favor is going to be. But now that Azuma's girl, Ellie, not really his girl, but his crush, Ellie, has the Mark of the Beast, and he is basically the reincarnation of Queen, it creates a very interesting dynamic between them that I didn't see coming earlier. But now, we cut back to the group. Palma, Michael, Simon, Monoma, all these guys. We cut back to them and their conversation, whereas it seems that Palma's just very tired and worn out because of cleaning up. Yamato Mori's generally just been cleaning up the past couple of days around the city because, man, plane crashes do make a big mess. And honestly, I'm gonna be so real, I'm loving this realism from Ishida. The fact that he actually has a couple pages dedicated to just cleaning up over the city. It's such a small detail, but it does so well into making this world feel like a real world where real events take place. Just then, as people are talking about the situation with the town, we then get Simon basically hypothesizing that this whole thing that happened with Master Motto, it was played, it was staged, it actually was planned out from the start. And that gets him to start suspecting if there is a leak in Yamato Mori. And then the only ones who knew we get the information were the masters of Yamato Mori and Nanasu. So it has to be one of them. It narrows down their entire selection of who it could possibly be. Then, or anyone with an ability for intel gathering who might have found out. The assassins have got to be Choujin. We know that much at least. We'll be in trouble if they attack while we're weak. We're without prophecies, and we lost a lot of people in the tower. The prophecies. We could get Kurohara to take the mark and have him prophecy. That's basically Michael's whole idea. And yeah, it's really starting to hit our characters that, bro, we can't tell what's going to happen next anymore. And I feel like this future very, very much scares them, because it would me too. If I was able to have some sort of reassurance of what would happen, even if it was something bad, I would be much more prepared and feel safe rather than if I had no clue now all of a sudden. Just then and there, Monoma, as soon as the mention of Tokyo taking the mark happens, she then gets her own panel telling Michael, just straight Michael, why did you say that? But then we go to Michael. He says, I'm sorry. Simon says, is it really the end of the world if Kurohara takes the mark? Monoma, right now, we desperately need the power. Hey, are you listening to me? It seems like Monoma's very against Tokyo taking the mark, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because she knows what potentially happened to his parents. Maybe that's already common knowledge. Who knows? Maybe she's just trying to be considerate and not force stress on Tokyo already, as he's already been through a lot at this point in time. So maybe she's not trying to put more on him. But at the same time, I'm not sure. Who knows? And in the final stretch of the pages in the chapter, we get to see that Tokyo is actually off cleaning up the rubble in the town. We see a couple of the town's folks talking to him, telling that, oh, he's that Choujin that was unable to save the town, and now he's trying to atone for his sins. But actually, this isn't even what Tokyo is trying to do. Tokyo is basically just trying to look for his parents. He's trying to look for any trace of them. And man, this must suck, guys. Such a heartwarming character like Tokyo. Such a good guy, man. Seeing this shit, if his parents really are dead, this really sucks. I'm not gonna lie. Like, oh man, I don't even want to imagine it. But just then and there, while Tokyo's so focused in cleaning up the rubble, Palma ends up showing up, and she's like, mind if I lend you a hand? Now, the reason Palma's able to help out Tokyo is because she can hear the voices of the dead, simply because of her whole Choujin powers and stuff. So she's able to hear if somebody is calling for Tokyo, which means someone must be related to him, right? Obviously. So this is some great representation from Ishida based on how she's able to just hear the voices of the dead all around her, and the dead are all over, and it just like seems like a very uncomfortable situation. This reminds me of that one panel from tokyoghoul with Mutsuki inside the club that one time, but there's just a bunch of speech bubbles everywhere, and it's just a bunch of chaos going on. But just then and there, Palma tells Tokyo that she hears someone calling his name over there and points. Tokyo ends up heading that way. But soon after that, she literally starts regretting it. She says, I heard someone call for him, so I thought I should tell him right away. But if I heard them, that means I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb, the biggest Dumbo ever. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. As Tokyo lifts the rubble up and discovers his supposed dead dad's body. Oh man, this isn't good, Ishida, bro. Like, you can't let me have 1 second of happiness, bro. Like, are we dead ass? Like, are we serious? We just killed Tokyo's father, bro. A character who, mind you, hasn't been a very major character in the plot, but that one moment on the rooftop with young Tokyo and his dad telling him to follow his ambition. That's one of the biggest moments in all of choujinX, and you gotta help. You can't help but feel bad for Tokyo. Such a heartwarming character, such a good guy. He doesn't deserve none of this stuff happening to him, bro. And it's just like, it sucks because you know that now Tokyo's most likely gonna go down a darker path. Like I had predicted, I think Tokyo has been surrounded by death and this god of death persona for the entirety of choujinX. And now that this is virtually confirmed, right, to be true, I feel like Tokyo has genuinely started to go down that path, especially if this is the death of his dad. Now, I've heard some theories about Palma reviving him and maybe that happening. But I'm not sure about that. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm pretty sure with Palma reviving someone, she needs at least their head. And it looks like Tokyo's dad's entire upper half has just been splashed. Now, who knows if this is like on purpose? Maybe somebody actually did kill him before the plane crashed, and maybe that's why he's unable to be revived. Maybe someone's trying to force Tokyo down this specific path so he can develop the mindset. Possibly Sato. But honestly, the fact that we don't see his sister's body is one thing. This is one thing right here. Maybe the fact that we do not see Tokyo's sister's dead body is something, and missing persons was reported earlier in the chapter. I feel like Tokyo's sister might still be alive, and I feel like she will be used to essentially manipulate Tokyo. I feel like Tokyo will be pretty much blackmailed in order to protect his sister, and that's the only thing he has left. So now he's just going to be way more desperate. And it hurts even more the fact that Tokyo didn't even, as soon as he got back here, he hasn't seen his parents, bro. He hasn't seen his family at all. And this is how he sees his dad, bro. It just sucks, man. But anyways, this was a pretty good chapter, guys. Please remember to leave your comments what you think is going to happen next. What did you think about the chapter? Please remember to like and subscribe if you like choujinX content. And yeah, man, I hope you guys all have a great day. Goodbye.